I have committed infidelity against my husband, and I am currently experiencing overwhelming remorse, which is preventing me from functioning normally. This grave error occurred just 2 days ago, and I immediately felt deep regret. It stands as the gravest mistake of my life, and I am still struggling to come to terms with my actions. In order to provide some context about our situation, I will provide some information about myself and my husband. I am 37 years old, and my husband is 38. We have been married for 15 years and have 2 children, a 14-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son. Although my husband serves as the primary breadwinner, I work full-time and contribute my fair share to our financial responsibilities and investments. I endeavor to contribute an equitable amount of time and financial resources to our joint financial responsibilities and investments. My husband does not require my financial contribution, yet I offer it willingly, as we perceive ourselves as equal partners in life. Consequently, the gravity of my infidelity weighs heavily on me, gnawing at my conscience. I am fearful that I will not endure another day without succumbing to despair. I will refrain from providing further details regarding my employment at a facility that provides assistance to individuals in recovery from substance abuse as they reintegrate into society. The individuals we encounter at our facility come from a variety of backgrounds, including homeless individuals and those of substantial wealth. My colleagues and I often remark that addiction is not limited by social boundaries and can affect anyone. The individual in question was encountered at my place of work, regardless of their societal status. It was not deemed appropriate to label the actions as an affair, given the absence of emotional involvement. The act was impulsive and akin to being in a trance. The individual in question was a former patient who had completed treatment at our facility over 3 months ago. The individual in question is 28 years of age and hails from affluent parents who support his lifestyle. He is gainfully employed as a bouncer on weekends and as a driver several days a week, with the majority of his income provided by his parents. He possesses a confident demeanor and an exceptionally persuasive nature. His physical fitness, which stems from his role as a bouncer, coupled with a rugged charm, likely contributed to my experienced an inexplicable attraction towards him, which led me to engage in behaviors that I would typically never contemplate. I would like to clarify for those reading this text that I am not a counselor or therapist, nor do I play a role in patient treatment. My employment at the facility is strictly administrative, and I can confirm that there was no breach of ethical conduct as previously mentioned. This individual has a bold personality, and I found his pursuit of me to be unrelenting and unsettling. From the moment he entered the premises, he initiated a flirtatious interaction with me. I have previously encountered patients who were flirtatious, but this instance was different. His intentions seemed genuine, and his pursuit was unrelenting, which left me both unsettled and flattered. After he completed treatment, I had no further contact with him. Until last week, we encountered each other at a gas station. He was on his motorcycle and appeared to be in better health and more polished than before. He was polite and acknowledged that his previous behavior had been overbearing. Witnessing this transformed side of him made me feel at ease during our conversation. We talked for a while and he eventually asked for my phone number. He stated that the purpose of the call was to maintain contact, and I reluctantly provided my number. Despite my reservations, he expressed enjoyment over our conversations. However, I had the suspicion that he harbored deeper intentions. I will refrain from disclosing the specifics, but on an earlier occasion this week, we met at his residence and the interaction took an intimate turn. I immediately regretted it that day, as I had a dental appointment scheduled for 2. Subsequently, I elected to take the remainder of the afternoon off, given that my dentist is conveniently situated in proximity to my place of residence. I was disinclined to undertake the 25-minute return journey. I was compelled to undertake a brief return journey to my place of work, after which I proceeded to drive 25 minutes back to my own residence. I consented to visit the new accommodation of my acquaintance, despite being aware that this was an inappropriate course of action. Upon my arrival, the situation rapidly intensified. I was fully cognizant of the impropriety of my actions, yet I persisted and proceeded. I was compelled to continue, becoming wholly absorbed in the mounting anticipation. However, the moment of action brought a stark realization, and I was overcome with remorse. As soon as it was over, I departed, making it clear that I had not intended for this to occur and that I could not continue seeing him. He inquired as to the nature of our relationship, to which I replied that we had never been friends. On my return journey, I made a brief stop at the local park to use the restroom and clean up the facilities provided, which included flush toilets and running water. I spent over 30 minutes there attempting to wash away the overwhelming feelings of guilt and shame. As I performed this act, I experienced feelings of guilt and shame. This prompted me to consider the seriousness of my actions and the potential consequences. I realized that I could have become pregnant or even contracted an incurable STD, which caused me to experience a state of panic. I immediately left the park and proceeded to the pharmacy, where I purchased the over-the-counter medication. The following section is missing text. I proceeded to purchase the over-the-counter Plan B kit from the pharmacy. The young pharmacist on duty was incredibly helpful, discreetly guiding me through the process. I am grateful for her assistance, although I am unable to express my gratitude publicly. I then took the pill and proceeded to call the individual in question to discuss his health status and relationship history. He began by apologizing before confirming that he currently had no sexually transmitted diseases. I inquired about the last time he had been tested. He informed me that he had been tested and that the last time he had been tested for sexually transmitted diseases, STDs, was over 5 years ago. I asked him if he had had other sexual partners since then. He admitted to having had multiple partners, although he could not provide an exact number. He estimated that it was more than 5. His revelation shocked me, and I was overcome with emotion. He had sexual partners, but was unsure if he had used protection due to his previous use of contraceptive pills. When I asked why he had not used protection with me, he stated that it was because I had not requested it. I terminated the call and blocked his number. Upon arriving home, I changed my clothes and proceeded to prepare dinner for my family. They were expected. At approximately 7 p.m., as my daughter had a game and my husband and son planned to attend, I found it challenging to maintain my composure each time our eyes met. An overwhelming sense of guilt washed over me, threatening to bring tears. Last night followed a similar pattern, though my emotions were even more heightened. My son noticed my distress and inquired if I was crying. I replied with a denial, attributing the watery eyes were attributed to the pollen in the air. The previous 2 nights were navigated with difficulty, and it is feared that another night will result in a breakdown. The option of burying this whole ordeal and resuming life as if nothing happened was considered, but it was concluded that this would not be a viable solution. It was decided that the only way forward was to seek advice from others who may have faced a similar situation. Should my husband become aware of the truth, I fear it would irreparably damage our relationship and result in my children losing all respect for me. I am seeking advice from those who may have faced a similar situation, as I am uncertain about the best course of action and the potential consequences. On Friday evening, I mustered the courage to confess to my husband. The emotions overwhelmed me, and tears flowed uncontrollably. My husband's response was not in alignment with my expectations. Despite being aware that my actions had caused him significant distress, he initially displayed a stoic demeanor, exhibiting minimal emotional response immediately following my confession. He proceeded to leave his seat and approach the window, where he remained for an extended period. I continued to express my remorse and urge him to verbalize his feelings, yet he remained silent. Eventually, he turned to face me. He inquired as to whether protection had been utilized. I was compelled to admit that we had not taken the necessary precautions. He responded with a disapproving shake of his head. I attempted to reassure him by explaining that I had undergone testing but had not yet received the results. In a composed manner, he informed me that I would need to relocate to the spare room and maintain a safe distance for the well-being of all parties involved. Despite my attempts to express remorse, he remained unresponsive. Instead, he proposed informing our children that I had tested positive for the virus and would be required to quarantine for a few days. He then proceeded down the hallway towards our master bedroom, and I followed, attempting to encourage him to open up and share his feelings. He responded with a calm but stern demeanor, declining and expressing his desire to be alone with his thoughts. I pressed for a reason, but he simply said, "I'm going to think about it," and then he shook his head and shut the door, returning to the living room. I spent the following 2 hours weeping on the sofa, pondering how to set things right. I then tidied up myself just before our children returned home at approximately 10 p.m. Upon their arrival, my husband emerged from the bedroom to greet them. The 4 of us then engaged in conversation. The children recounted the film they had seen and where they had eaten. My husband appeared to be in good spirits and asked them numerous questions about the film. He then informed them that their mother had something to tell them. I glanced at him and he nodded. I proceeded to inform them that I had tested positive for the virus but was asymptomatic. I informed them that, for the sake of everyone's safety, I would be sleeping in the guest room for a few days and maintaining a physical distance from everyone. The children appeared to accept this arrangement and inquired about the required distance. My husband informed them that it should be 6 feet. We proceeded to spend the remainder of the evening watching television until past midnight, at which point we retired to our respective bedrooms. The night seemed ordinary and I was beginning to feel more optimistic. However, my mood took a sudden turn the following morning at approximately 5 o'clock. I heard my husband in the kitchen encouraging me to rise and join him. He was seated at the table, sipping coffee in a state of apparent detachment. He entered the room in a state of apparent disengagement, tapping his finger in a seemingly mindless manner and gazing at a point on the horizon. He did not acknowledge my presence. I greeted him with a cheerful good morning and gently touched his neck, but he did not respond. I proceeded to prepare a cup of coffee and joined him at the table. I inquired about his thoughts, but he gave no indication that he was listening. When I asked if he was willing to talk, he conveyed that there was nothing to discuss, emphasizing his need to think. Furthermore, he explained that when they were with their children, they should both maintain a facade of normality. However, when they were alone, he preferred her to refrain from speaking until he was ready to engage in conversation. She assured him of her understanding and readiness to listen whenever he felt prepared to talk. However, she consented to respect his wishes. His apparent need for space, coupled with his uncommunicative and emotionless response, is causing me significant concern. Furthermore, I am left wondering about the nature of his thoughts that we cannot discuss openly. His reaction is quite unexpected and is leaving me deeply apprehensive. I would be grateful to hear from anyone who has encountered a similar response from their partner after betrayal. Update 2. I would like to express my gratitude to everyone who has responded to my previous update. In response to the feedback provided in my previous update, I have respected my husband's request for space to process his emotions. I have refrained from initiating any communication with him unless he has initiated the conversation or unless the topic concerns our children. Things were progressing reasonably well until yesterday, when it appeared that we had a significant breakthrough. This occurred on my son's 13th birthday, when he expressed a desire to the four of us proceeded to an amusement park, where we spent an agreeable time together. My husband and I alternated between accompanying our children on various rides, including all the roller coasters, some of which we rode on multiple occasions. As the day drew to a close, my husband and I even went on rides together and found the experience highly agreeable. The day evoked memories of our early days together. We then proceeded to my son's favorite restaurant for our evening meal. We proceeded to enjoy a wonderful dinner and surprised him with an ice cream cake. It was an exceptional day. This morning, I woke up with the impression that we were moving in a positive direction. I am looking forward to building on the wonderful day we had experienced yesterday. As I headed to the kitchen, my husband was already there. He actually greeted me with a good morning. I poured myself a cup of coffee and refilled his while sitting down next to him. After drinking coffee, I refilled his cup while sitting down next to him. We discussed the previous day and how enjoyable it had been. After a few minutes, he changed the topic and stated that it was time for me to be honest with the children and my parents about my actions. Hearing him say this caused me to feel a sense of shock and unease. I inquired as to why he felt that way and he explained that they deserved to know the truth. I proposed that we maintain confidentiality and address the matter together, but he asserted that he was no longer willing to shoulder the burden of my actions. I disclosed the difficulties I was experiencing, including insomnia and difficulty concentrating, since the incident. He acknowledged my feelings but asserted that I needed to inform my family immediately. He warned that if I did not, he would be disappointed and might have to disclose the information himself. I requested his accompaniment as a gesture of solidarity and to demonstrate our unity, but he declined, stating that this was something I had to face alone. His decision caused me significant distress, as I had anticipated his support. I have spent the past few hours contemplating how to address my children and parents. I drafted several scripts, but they did not feel genuine. Ultimately, I decided to be I must acknowledge my actions, admit their wrongfulness, express my sincerest apologies and request their forgiveness. There is nothing further I can do at this juncture. I must accept the consequences of my actions regarding the test results. I received them and I am in the clear, which is a significant relief. However, the clinic advised a retest in 30 days as a precaution due to the proximity of the initial test. The test revealed potential exposure, which was a cause for concern. However, the clinic stated that they have never encountered a positive result on a retest. I will provide an update after discussing this with my family. I am grateful to those who have been praying for us, and I kindly request continued thoughts and prayers. Update 3. I have returned to inform everyone that I have confessed and shared the complete truth with my children and later with my parents. I informed my children and subsequently my parents of the complete truth. This was an arduous process as my children reacted in disparate ways. My daughter expressed anger, while my son exhibited profound concern. She even demanded to know the identity of the individual in question, suggesting she wished to seek revenge. However, I refused to divulge this information, assuring her that I would never see him again. Both children have expressed concern for their father and have united in support of him, making it clear they stand by his side. My parents have reacted with profound disappointment and shock, but have also rallied around my husband and have only spoken to me once by phone since I informed them of the situation. They have conversed with my husband at least half a dozen times. I am pleased they are all supporting him. He expressed gratitude for my honesty and for taking complete responsibility. However, his treatment of me remains unchanged. I am currently uncertain about our future path. I will strive to be the best wife and mother I can be. I take pleasure in performing small acts of kindness for my family, particularly in the kitchen has become a focal point for family bonding, particularly during meal times. These moments are now regarded as invaluable. I am grateful for the support I have received from those who have stood by me during this challenging journey. As previously mentioned, I have initiated a process of open communication with my entire family with the aim of facilitating healing within my marriage. The relationship, however, took an unexpected turn 2 Saturdays ago when my husband sat me down and expressed his desire for a divorce. He conveyed that despite his efforts to move beyond my actions, he found it impossible to do so. He revealed that since learning about my transgressions, he had been under constant mental strain, which had now begun to manifest as a serious impact on his physical well-being. He also disclosed that earlier in the week he had visited the doctor and his blood pressure had reached dangerously high levels, resulting in the need for medication. This information caused me to experience deep concern and regret for the pain and suffering I had caused him. Furthermore, I was heartened by the fact that he hadn't confided in me about his health struggles until that moment. This became evident to me. At that juncture, his trust in me had been irrevocably damaged, and our marriage had reached its conclusion. Tears streamed down my face as I reassured him that I would comply with whatever decision he made, as I was unwilling to inflict any further distress upon him than I already had. He expressed his desire for an amicable divorce, emphasizing the importance of fairness and prioritizing the well-being of our children. I assured him that I would honor his wishes. I informed him of my commitment to this, while simultaneously reiterating my intention to pursue the possibility of salvaging our marriage. His response was one of warm reassurance, and I moved closer to embrace him. Over the past few weeks, we have been assiduously engaged in the process of sorting out the logistical aspects and sharing the news with our respective families. We informed our children of the situation, and while their initial reaction was one of disbelief and distress, included tears and directed frustration at me for disrupting our family. My husband and I engaged in heartfelt conversations that eventually eased their concerns. By the end of our discussions, we all shared comforting embraces, navigating through the emotional journey together. However, our parents have had a different response. Both sets of parents are deeply upset and fervently advocate for us to remain together. In order for us to remain together, our mothers have been urging my husband to reconsider and explore therapy as a potential solution. However, he has firmly declined, asserting that he bears no culpability and does not require therapy. The situation escalated to the point where I needed to step in and request that they respect our space and allow us to address this matter. The current situation, as it stands independently, may not be the desired outcome. However, it is arguably aligned with what I deserve. It is noteworthy that since we mutually agreed to divorce, we have engaged in more profound and thoughtful conversations than we have in quite some time. Furthermore, my husband has become more open, relaxed, and has taken the initiative in most of our recent discussions. It may sound unconventional, but I believe that divorcing might paradoxically be the catalyst that ultimately brings us closer together. Interestingly, the notion of divorce has seemingly liberated my husband. Perhaps he feels he is regaining something I took from him through my actions lately. He appears to be consistently in good spirits and his blood pressure has returned to a healthy range. To the extent that his doctor suggested a gradual reduction in his medication. Upon hearing this news, I experienced a profound sense of relief. I recognize that this may be perceived as unconventional, but it aligns with my observation that, while I would prefer to remain married, the prospect of reconciling with my husband is enhanced by the prospect of divorce. I am open to this possibility and am exercising caution in not setting my hopes too high just yet. However, I am fervently praying each day that this situation will ultimately work out positively for us. The final update is that our divorce was officially concluded last week in our state. The process is moving forward. The process was completed in a relatively short period of time, approximately 5 months, due to the fact that both parties involved had reached an agreement prior to the hearing. I had initially hoped for a longer process, allowing me more time to attempt to change my husband's mind. However, circumstances led to a different outcome. Currently, we are still residing in our family home, with the intention of remaining there for a few more months until the end of the school year. Beyond that point, we plan to list the house for sale, with the expectation that it will sell quickly. This upcoming period will undoubtedly be challenging for me, and I hope it does not result in further difficulties. Ideally, I would prefer for us to continue residing together until my son completes high school. However, the outcome of the divorce proceedings remains uncertain. All our assets were equitably divided, with me receiving a modest child support payment and 2 years of alimony, which will take effect once we sell the house and part ways. I am optimistic that this might serve as an additional incentive for my husband to prolong our family's coexistence. However, the ultimate decision rests with him. As previously mentioned, our current relationship is harmonious and we are getting along exceptionally well. Despite the absence of intimacy, the relationship between the two former spouses remains characterized by a strong friendship and the fulfillment of their roles as parents to their children. The four of them regularly share meals and engage in various family activities. However, the former spouses no longer have private moments together. Despite the ongoing friendship and shared parenting responsibilities, I find myself questioning why my husband was so eager to finalize the divorce, particularly given the lack of urgency in ending our family unit. I would be grateful to hear from anyone who can shed light on this matter. For the time being, I am taking each day as it comes, striving to be the best ex-wife I can be. I endeavor to be the best ex-wife and co-parent that I can be. I hope that my former husband Si may come to value this effort and consider giving our relationship another chance at some point in the future. That was an interesting anecdote. Now, let us move on to another equally intriguing one. I have recently discovered that my wife is having an affair, and I am somewhat perplexed about how to proceed. Our relationship spans almost a decade, with 5 years of marriage, and we are blessed with 2 lovely daughters aged 5 and 7. I have a substantial income and the property comprises a bedroom, a garden and a swing set. I provide for my wife's mother, aged 15, on a weekly basis. My sister, who has been residing with us for over 2 years, has been a significant source of contention in our relationship. Over the past few years, our relationship has encountered numerous challenges, resulting in a gradual deterioration of the bond between us. Recognizing this, I encouraged my wife to attend marriage counseling with me. We have been attending sessions nearly every week since April. Despite this, we both remained unsatisfied with the counseling. It became evident that our detrimental behaviors were the result of a lack of understanding and communication. I was committed to becoming a more effective husband and father, with the assumption that my wife was doing the same. However, in October, during a business trip, I was informed by a friend that my wife was spending a considerable amount of time with a particular individual whom I had previously encountered briefly. My initial impression of this person was that he was a mere acquaintance of my wife's. I was aware that the individual in question was a friend of my wife's, although I did not reveal this to her. I promptly returned home that night. When my wife picked me up from the airport, she appeared distant and unenthusiastic about my return. Upon arriving home, she went straight to bed. I stayed awake for a while and, once she was asleep, I discreetly examined her phone. It is worth noting that the act of a spouse maintaining their phone with them at all times, even during periods of repose such as sleep or showering, often indicates a desire for secrecy. I was able to ascertain the name of the individual in question and access the text messages that had been deleted. A brief examination of the cell phone records revealed that she was exchanging over 20 text messages with him on a daily basis. I proceeded to wake her up and confront her about, however, she denied any wrongdoing, claiming that they were merely friends. She deleted the messages in question to avoid any misunderstanding on my part. My suspicions grew day by day, leading me to closely monitor her cell phone records. It became overwhelming, and I eventually insisted that she cease all communication with him. I even engaged in a civil discussion with at his residence. The gentleman was requested to cease communication with my wife. He acquiesced, yet my wife began to harbor resentment towards me, perceiving my actions as an unwarranted interference in what she considered a perfectly innocent friendship. Despite this, she appeared to have ceased texting and talking to the gentleman. However, I observed a sudden surge in her data usage, which I attributed to, despite my insistence that she cease all communication with him, my wife continued to cling to her phone and deny any communication with him. My paranoia intensified, yet I chose to disregard it and instead focus on becoming a more attentive husband and father. I began to listen more attentively, assist more with the children's activities, and actively participate in their daily lives. I also sought to reduce my stress levels. In regard to financial matters and minor issues, I assumed additional household responsibilities, such as doing my own laundry for the children, in order to contribute to the household income. Furthermore, I made efforts to engage in her interests and passions, particularly her love for horses. I had previously purchased a horse for her, and I assisted her in her search for employment in the equine industry, with the intention of encouraging her self-sufficiency. The value and social interaction of the aforementioned date, the 15th of January, is worthy of note. On this occasion, a grand dinner was held to celebrate the birthday of her brother. The gathering included her cousins and friends, and a delightful meal was enjoyed after the celebrations. The majority of the group, including my wife, proceeded to the nearby bar. I remained in the restaurant with one of her cousins. The man manager then approached me, holding her phone, and inquired as to whether I recognized it. I was surprised to discover that it was my wife's phone. I opened her Facebook app and discovered a series of messages between her and another individual. In the messages, she also expresses deep affection for this person, conveying how much she loves and misses him. She mentions missing his scent on her jacket and refers to him as her one and only. As I read further, the messages become increasingly distressing, and I am unable to continue. Her cousin reads them as well and shares my shock. Upon confronting her, I learned that she had developed feelings for this person but maintains that they never engaged in intimate activity. She insists they only kissed on 2 occasions, which I do not believe that they had a close relationship. I have chosen not to disclose this information to her. She has confessed that her involvement with him was a result of feeling neglected by me over the years. This revelation has caused me to question my own perceptions, feelings and actions. I do not desire a divorce, yet I also cannot fathom remaining married to someone who no longer loves me. She has expressed a desire to work through our issues, but I remain uncertain about my own desires. I sense that she yearns to find her own identity and prove her independence. Despite my affection for her and the challenge of maintaining a positive emotional state, I hypothesize that she may only truly value her current circumstances by contemplating the potential loss of some or all of them. My dilemma is whether to pursue a particular course of action. I am seeking advice on the optimal approach. I am grateful for all the input I have received thus far. I have taken several actions since the initial developments. I consulted with a lawyer, which proved to be a valuable discussion. While staying with a friend, the lawyer advised me to return home. To circumvent potential complications pertaining to abandonment, which my state deems a significant concern, I have returned to my place of residence and currently reside in the basement. The lawyer also evaluated my evidence and posited that I have a compelling case to prove her infidelity. Consequently, this may exempt me from paying alimony, though child support remains obligatory. Of note, he advised against any sexual involvement with her, as doing so might imply condoning the affair and jeopardize my stance on her infidelity. Interestingly, he mentioned that he advises in a similar situation, his female clients have been advised to engage sexually with their husbands if they have been cheated on. I have taken steps to safeguard my assets, including opening a new checking account solely in my name and redirecting my direct deposit to this account. I have also cancelled all our joint credit cards and implemented credit monitoring with fraud protection regarding her mother and sister. I consulted with a real estate agent last week and intend to list the house for sale next month. I have made it clear to them that it is necessary to identify alternative housing arrangements following the sale of the property. Additionally, my wife has secured employment with her uncle's moving company, although the remuneration is relatively modest. It is my hope that this experience will foster an appreciation for the value of hard work. I postulate that her reaction was influenced by my decision to cease subsidizing the costs of her horseboarding and maintenance. Furthermore, the cancellation of her gas card was due to the expenses associated with her Lexus X470, which was costly to fill up, particularly with children in mind. I am striving to shield them from the consequences of my actions. I ensure there is no arguing or conflict in their presence and I take good care of them. One positive aspect I have gained from this situation is the realization that it is not my fault and I have been proactive in addressing the issues. 8 months later, I can now sum it up as follows: I have made significant progress during this period. I have experienced a range of emotions, including highs and lows. I have also experienced severe depression, which has caused me to feel trapped in a negative cycle. Getting out of bed and going to work was a challenge for me, and I often found myself unable to do so. I have been dealing with a lot of pain and anger. This process is ongoing. Initially, my instinct was to retaliate and make her face the consequences of her actions. We agreed on a monthly child support amount that exceeded the legal requirement, which I believed to be the appropriate course of action at the time. My lawyer prepared the settlement agreement, which outlined what she could expect from me on a monthly basis. She located a rental house approximately 45 minutes away from the city, which she deemed to be an appropriate place for our daughters to live, given the proximity to excellent schools. I was aware that she could not afford a similar place closer to town, and therefore considered this to be a suitable choice. Part of our agreement stipulated that a relative of the opposite sex was prohibited from spending the night in the presence of the children. Neither she nor her partner was permitted to stay overnight when the children were present. The same rule applied to me. There were to be no overnight guests of the opposite sex when the children were with me. It is notable that this provision in the settlement agreement is common and aligns with the regulations of our state, however, dictate that in the initial week of her relocation to our residence, prior to the finalization of the settlement agreement, her boyfriend was permitted to stay overnight on several occasions. This resulted in further complications. She attempted to have the children lie about this to me, which caused me significant distress. In response, I instructed my lawyer to withdraw the settlement offer and informed her of my decision. I informed her that the new arrangement would entail providing her with nothing beyond the child support mandated by the state, and that I would not be providing any additional financial support. It took her some time to fully comprehend the gravity of the situation, and she is now experiencing difficulties in meeting her financial obligations. It should be noted that the children are well provided for. I ensure that they have access to all the necessary resources, including food, clothing, and other essentials. I assume responsibility for the expenses directly, thus bypassing her. She has not yet secured employment, although she claims to be searching for it. In truth, however, I am no longer concerned about this matter. It is now her responsibility to address. I have made a positive change in my life by embracing CrossFit, which has had a transformative effect on me. I am now in the best shape of I am experiencing a profound sense of well-being and self-assurance. In my personal life, I have encountered an exceptional individual with whom I have formed a profound connection. I believe that I am drawn to her because she embodies qualities that are diametrically opposed to those of my former partner. She is highly intelligent, remarkably accomplished, attractive, driven, and we share a remarkable rapport. I wish to clarify that I am not hastily pursuing another relationship. I have made that distinction clear from the outset. From the outset, she has been fully aware of our circumstances and has accepted them. Meeting this new person marked a significant turning point for me. I now have a companion with whom I can converse, spend time, provide comfort and share intimacy. This has had a positive effect on my mood, leading me towards a state of happiness. Subsequently, circumstances have only improved. I was able to let go of a significant amount of the resentment I had towards my former partner. Interestingly, my former partner and I have developed a cordial relationship. We communicate regularly and always prioritize our children. While I may never forgive her for her actions, she is the mother of my children, so it is in everyone's best interest for us we are able to interact amicably, although I am not inclined to reconcile with her. It is unlikely that I will ever be able to trust her again. However, we can maintain a cordial relationship and coexist. There are certain issues that will always be challenging to overcome, and the individual with whom she had an affair is one of those issues. I have informed her that I will never accept him or even acknowledge his existence. It would be in his best interest, as well as my own, if I never encountered him again.